Welcome to Dorset. Today we're on the Jurassic Coast, we're at St Oswalds Bay and we're doing Seascapes. Great to see you all again. Thanks so much for joining me. Today we're at St Oswalds Bay. I don't know if you'll know this one, but it's got two very, very famous brothers and sisters. To the right, you've got Durdle Door, and to the left, you've got Lulworth Cove. And this one is considered probably the sort of the poor brother to the other two, because they're so well known and so popular. But as you can see, got the entire place to ourselves, and that's just how I like it. It's looking like we've got some really good conditions here today at St Oswalds. We've got some really nice high level cloud, and if that sticks around till sunset, bang, it's all going to go off. We're going to be pink hues everywhere. It's going to look fantastic. So that's influenced my choice today on why I've come down here. There's some beautiful rocky sections all along St Oswalds Bay at the edge. And they're going to make beautiful foreground for a nice long exposure seascape. The sea comes smashing into them, all the water sort of foams up. It looks fantastic. But until the sun's ready to set, we're going to shoot side lit all the way down to the cliff edge here at St Oswalds, because it looks absolutely stunning and the sun's coming right in from the side. So we're going to try and nail a few shots there first before we go onto the rocks at sunset. But at the moment, conditions looking really, really good. But as is the case with some of these times, when it looks this good, it could all go wrong and end up going clear. But I'm really hopeful that we might get something, and should look pretty spectacular when it's all going off. St Oswalds Bay is essentially at one end quite featureless. There's a fantastic cliff here and it looks really, really beautiful, but there's not an awful lot else to shoot along the coast. As I say, there's not features really there. But as you come down towards this end, which is known as Dungy Head, which is just in front of me here, bit of a poor name for such a beautiful area, but it's much more rocky, and there's all sorts of interesting foreground here, so it's a bit more sort of interesting to shoot at. The good thing is as well is if we shoot from this end down to the coast here, we've got some good interesting rocks in the foreground. Now at the moment they're very, very heavily lit, but a polarizer is going to be able to take the glare off those because we're shooting at 90 degrees to the sun here, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. There's some fantastic clouds starting to appear just above. We've got some beautiful mackerel sky going on now. If that sticks around till sunset, it's going to be immense. Whether it will or not, that's another matter. There's a good 45 minutes till sunset right now, so an awful lot can happen, but there's some good high level out there, and I'm really confident it's going to go quite nicely. I can't see any sort of thick dark cloud that's going to block the sun yet, but there is plenty of time for it to come, so I'm not going to count my chickens just yet. But at the moment, looking really good. It's been a long time since I've been properly on the Jurassic Coast and actually down on the shore. I've done a lot of cliff shots recently, and I've spent pretty much the past 2 years exclusively inland, just avoiding the coast. It became exceptionally busy down here, and it just wasn't a fun place to shoot anymore. I wasn't enjoying the photography, so I went for a bit more solitude and stayed inland, and I really got a lot out of that. The shooting inland I find is a lot harder, and you really have to work at it a bit more. So it definitely improves your technique and makes you work for the shots as well. Seascapes I find a little bit easier. I mean, essentially, you know, if you've got a pretty foreground, some moving water and some nice colourful sky, bam, it's like the perfect combination. So it's not really too hard to shoot. Obviously, you've got to get it right on the composition and, you know, on the picture itself. But I do find it a lot easier down here than inland shooting in the countryside, but not quite so much of a challenge. But it is really, really good to be back on here. As I say, it's been about 2 years since I've properly shot the coast, so I'm really excited to be back here, and hopefully I'll be able to show you a lot more of the Jurassic Coast in the coming episodes. It's worth mentioning that to come down and shoot this side of St Oswalds Bay, it's a little bit of a trek down here, and it's a very, very slippery slope. A lot of the steps have fallen away from the cliff. There's been landslides, so it's not really one for the faint-hearted. So if you're not too great on your feet, I would probably avoid this place. But if you don't mind a bit of a scramble, then it's a really, really good venue to come. And as you can see, we've got it to ourselves. So it's not as popular as a lot of places. So it's really, really nice to have a little bit of peace and quiet and just enjoy the light and our landscape photography. We've got some beautifully lit foreground here today. And as you can see, the cliffs, they look fantastic, all bathed in gold. It's just getting into that fantastic point of golden hour, and it's really, really starting to look good. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to start taking a few pictures and see if we can get something. Okay, so we're shooting in portrait orientation. We're trying to get the best use of the rocks just in front of us here and try and get the waves as they're crashing in. A little bit of a precarious position, but should be okay. What we're going to do now is a little trick is get a 9 soft grad, 0.9, and we're going to put it in upside down so it actually goes onto our foreground and a little bit into the scene. And it will stop that white water from really, really overexposing. It's not always ideal, but on this particular scene, it will work quite well. Just by doing that, we've given ourselves a ½ a second shutter speed now, but we've not blown out all of our sky, so it looks ideal. So you've got to remember though, obviously put it in the reverse way, so all the dark is right at the very bottom, going into a much, much clearer gradient. Just gives you a little bit more on the rocks and the water itself, a bit more exposure there. You can push it just a little bit longer. Here's another wave, and beautiful. Exposure absolutely bang on. So we're shooting at f11, and we've got the wide angle on today. We're shooting at 15mm. Ideally, with this sort of scene, you really, really want about a ½ a second exposure time, just to give that water just a little bit of movement. You don't want too much in here because we're not going for a full long exposure yet, but just that little bit of movement allows it to show what's going on and cascade over a rock. Okay, so we've got a Case 6-stop ND filter, and we're going to use that to drag out our exposure time a little bit and give us that milky water effect. Okay, so on this one, we've gone from being on a ½ a second exposure time to 20 seconds now. So it should give us a lot more frothy water and a good milky effect. So we'll just wait for the right wave and then we'll catch it. I'll stick up the standard exposure and the long exposure. Let me know, which one did you prefer? Okay, so we've moved a little bit further around now, and we've got the sun going to set in about maybe 10-20 minutes. We've not really got the best composition that I would have wanted, but I've got to go for safety first, to be fair. The waves are really coming in quite a bit, and as much as I'd like to be perched on some of the rocks out there, I need to be safe and need to be sensible. So here's going to do for now, I think. As it stands, we've got some good, interesting foreground, lots and lots of dramatic rocks here. We've got some good waves coming in as well, so it should look pretty good. Like I say, we're going to dabble with some long exposures with this one. See if we can get a nice traditional seascape, some good, colour in the sky, wide angle lens. Should be interesting. There is a bank of cloud just starting to form on the back there, but I think we're still going to be all right because there's some good high level dotted around. So I think what's going to happen is the sun's probably going to go down, maybe down for about 5 minutes or so, and then I think it will probably light up. So we're definitely not going to rush off too early today. Going to hold on and see exactly what's going to happen. But I think we should get a reasonable shot from here. Right, currently shooting at f11 aperture and 0.6 seconds. And what we're going to do is, as the waves come over these boulders in front of us, we're just going to try and catch that so they sort of drip down and leave a nice trail on there. And we'll go a little bit longer later on. What I'm really waiting for here is actually for the sun to go behind the horizon. Once it does that, it's going to make things a lot easier to expose. We're not going to have that glowing fiery ball right in the center of our frame, so we can up the exposure for the overall scene. So that's the ideal scenario. It'd be really nice if we could line the sun up dead center, but the position that we're sitting at just doesn't allow it, unfortunately. So rather than risk moving somewhere that does allow it, but maybe puts us in a more vulnerable position, I'm going to stay here, stick it out, and as the sun goes down anyway, we'll get all the colour in it. It'll be fairly uniform across the scene. Right, the sun is literally minutes away from setting now, and we've still got some of that high level, so it's looking like it might actually be quite good. I'm fairly hopeful. There's a little bit of cloud just sort of dotted around up here, some nice wispy high level cloud. Some of it's starting to turn a little bit pink already, so yeah, looking pretty good. I've just been zooming into a few of the rocks to try and get something with a bit more of a wave trail and you know, a bit more sort of distinct rather than just a general scene. Yeah, it looks reasonable. Okay, so we've removed the K6 stop filter now, and we're shooting at f16, and we're getting a shutter speed of 15 seconds, so it's not too bad at all. We should get some nice milky water with that. Keeping a careful check on our histogram at the moment, just to make sure we don't go overexposed, because it's really quite bright in the sky now. And of course the water, that's very bright as well. So we're really having to work to make sure we get our exposures just bang on. But histogram is always king, and it lets us know where we're at. It's about 10 minutes after sunset now, and the sky's really kicking off. There's some great pink tones up there, a lot of sort of peachy colours, a lot of yellows. Really looks beautiful. It should look fantastic when we're done with this one. Well, I'm glad that we set up as far back as we did, because the tide has got really unpredictable. So yeah, I think we made a safe and wise decision there. But it looks like we got a decent shot, so I'm well happy. I'll put the shots up now. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear it. Thanks so much for joining me today down here at St Oswalds. We've had a great day, got some decent long exposures, and I hope you've enjoyed doing a few seascapes with me. If you get a moment, please do hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. Take care. I'll see you next time.